If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What's up, everybody? It's Friday night. It's 9 o'clock Central, and we're here from the forum. I've got a crew in the house, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you real quick. Johnny, just start us off. Let them know who you are, where you create content, and we're going to kick right in.
Word, man. Johnny Main from the Fantasy Football Show. With my guy Nick Wilcox. You can follow him, Nick_Wilcox25 on X. Got content on X. Got a little bit on Facebook for the locals and the fam. Got the YouTube channel as well. We do everything, man. We talk, we talk fantasy football. We talk DFS. We talk props. Yeah, man. That's my game. And actually, man, I'm out of the 207, man. One of the rarities up here in the great state of Maine, baby. Repping it hard.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, you can find me over at the Fantasy Football RPG podcast. One of my co-hosts is actually from Maine, so that's funny. I think you're the only two people doing fantasy football in all of Maine. You can find my written content over at Football Guys, over at Last Word on Sports. But really just follow me on X at FFMikeCash. That's with a K. And I drop all the links over there so you can find everything you need.
Cool. And I don't think I really need to give an introduction because I'm here way more than I probably should. But I do want to give a shout out to my guy, Corey, who gave me this new camera. You can actually see me this week and not in this like grainy pixelated version. So if you don't like it, sorry, you're stuck with the mug. But Tyler lets me be here, so that's good enough for me. And you can find me on the Fantasy Football Advice Network, or you can find me on Twitter at JOEFRK. Let's party, man. It's free agency time, Tyler. Let's party, dude.
I know, dude. Ugh. And it's been a wild free agency thus far, and it kicked off quick. Like I feel like it was like, we were all waiting for something or anything to happen, and then everything happened in a period of like 2 days. Real quick, we got Brent in the chat. Let's go, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. BHS Cardinal excited for the show. Appreciate you tuning in. But yeah, I mean, and I'll start off with a doozy. What about that Cooper Kupp to the Seahawks contract? Mike, you already smiling big. What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can get a 31-year-old redundant receiver who does all the same things your young ascending receiver does, like, you got to jump on that. I mean, $15 million a year for 3 years. What a strong signing. Sam Darnold behind a terrible offensive line is going to look exactly as good as he looked in Minnesota. What a great offseason for the Seahawks. That's all sarcastic.
It's no nonsense.
No sarcasm there. That was Mike's real heat, like bringing it. Loved the signing.
Yep. Can't wait for the quote later out of context.
Dude, in other news, like if you play Dynasty, I was talking about last show, that's a bad O-line, and Darnold is gonna get smashed. So if you have Sam Howell, hold on to him, because about mid-season you will be able to deal him because he'll probably be starting.
How many points in your league do you get for seeing ghosts?
Not many.
He's going to see him again.
Demons. Seen something that said not ghosts but demons.
So obviously we've got a ton to cover. But right off top, I just want to kind of go around the circle of the free agency signings, or you can go team, you can go player, just what excites you for fantasy. Give me your biggest winner Like whether, I mean, it could even be for you can speak selfishly. Like if you've got a lot of, I know I've got a lot of shares of some players. And so, some things hit and I'm like, yes, I'm set for the next 4 years, But yeah, Johnny, start us off. Like what's one thing out of free agency that just really popped, you're really excited about?
For me, man, my one dynasty team I have Jaden Daniels. So obviously Larry Tunsil, Laramie Tunsil, that's a nice move for me right there for sure. And obviously I think the addition of Deebo Samuel and a lot of, vacated targets that's left with them not really having like a clear-cut number 2 wide receiver. It's definitely one of the things for me from like a fantasy perspective. I'm pretty excited about. I think a team that completely is two things actually. One that's under the radar is the Denver Broncos and what they've did on defense, just continuing to build. I like what they're doing out there for sure. And then I'm going to jump in on the Caleb Williams train this year, continuing to upgrade the offensive line. I like that. I like Caleb Williams last year. I don't think he was as bad as what people actually thought. I just think it was a really good rookie quarterback class, and I think he's poised for a nice ascending second year in that Chicago offense.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, both, and BHS Cardinal popped in and said Washington is building a monster. Both Washington, and I feel like even Chicago, and Chicago's a little bit more under the radar, are doing a lot. Like they're really helping where they had big holes. If I'm a Jaden owner, which I'm not, unfortunately, I had no picks early enough to attain him last year. But if you have
humble flex.
You have to be excited, But I mean, those are great points. I'm really excited to see what those two ball clubs do for 2025. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, my big winner from the 2025 free agency period has been all of the very mid free agents. So Justin Fields goes to a place, he looks like he's going to be the starter. Najee Harris goes somewhere, he looks like he's going to be the starter. Javonte Williams goes somewhere, looks like he's going to be the starter. Those are all guys that left a bad taste in our fantasy mouths, but now, there's some hope. You could talk the guy in your league and be like, hey, this is going to be worth something. You should trade for him.
So let me ask you this. Javonte Williams.
Yep.
Are you buying or selling?
Depends on the price range right now, so I'll go ahead and check over. We have some friends at Fantasy Calc. They take real trade data from leagues on Sleeper, and they figure out what the price is. So right now, Javonte Williams is going right around, Ricky Pearsall, Kyle Pitts. So that is the 206-ish. I'll buy him for that, for a 206. I would wait until see how the draft shakes out first, but I think he's a nice speculative ad right now.
So I got offered Javonte for the 209, and I thought it was a little bit rich for me. I wanted to be like an early third, I think, just a little bit of shift, but that's also my incessant need to just win a little bit, You
gotta see the 200 points on the calculator.
I just need that little bit of edge where I feel good about it, Yeah. No, I'm really interested. I don't think he's got a fair shake, and I don't think Dallas. I mean, obviously with signing him, signing Miles Sanders, it doesn't seem like they're trying to prioritize getting a running back, which everybody hoped they would, right? So it definitely gives you some hope. I think if you can buy him, if I could buy him for a late second, early third, I think that I'm in on just the possibility, because he is still young and he was coming off injuries, last season has got a first full depth of production. So no, I like that. There was a lot of good mids that could potentially, those deep grabs, like last year, you take a mid-round stab at J.K. Dobbins, and you get a 18-point week average, except for the 5 games he missed, but still I'm good. Running back 24 late, and that kind of, I get the Javonte, vibes from that. So I love that call. Excited about it. What about you, Joe?
Well, now I just need to think about the fact that Najee is a mid guy. It hurts me. Najee,
it hurts me too.
Yes.
Yeah. Tyler, we have primarily Steelers fans tonight. As you can see, rocking the Mason Rudolph jersey. We're back, baby.
I got to put the tape over my Justin Fields jersey.
Well, no, you see, I had the tape over my Mason jersey last year, but I had to pull it back off because he's home and Justin's gone. But I think the one that's really interesting for me, and I think that it's not necessarily a secret, is Evan Ingram going to the Broncos. They didn't have a second pass catcher outside of Cortland Sutton. Even when he joined the team, you saw him tweet out like the Joker as like, oh, like, look at me, welcome to the team. So how is Sean Payton going to utilize him? I'm really excited to see what they do with him next year. He was a bit of a surprise cut for me from the Jaguars because he's not old. He didn't underperform. So it was like, oh, wow, they went and did this. But I think that Denver was one of the premier landing spots. I thought he was going to go to the Chargers, but either one of those two, it seemed like a really good fit for him. So I think he's going to ball out next year.
Yeah, I like the Evan Ingram signing. Like, obviously, they want to use tight ends. They haven't really had one that they could use, which is why we got Lucas Kroll, in relevance last season. Like they definitely need somebody. I don't know. Maybe Jacksonville feels really good about Brenton Strange. Maybe they're planning on taking somebody. It's definitely interesting. The free agency shifts have been pretty crazy. Matt Stafford picking up weapons and getting Devontae Adams, like, that's killer. I was trying to think who might be my biggest winner. I don't know that I really have somebody that stands out. I think that's going to get superior production. I'm really interested in these freaking rookies. Like, they're driving me nuts. And like this is probably one of the deepest running back classes, not only from like built brick house, right, players, but guys that are also fast. The 4.4 40 average of, in the running backs was stellar. So I'm really interested. Like, I think Dallas could take somebody late. I think the Raiders are going to probably, try to grab somebody. The Steelers could grab somebody, like, everybody's like, oh, Jaylen Warren season. I think it's far too early to be screaming that narrative, Yeah. There's just a lot of talent there. And for fantasy, for me anyways, I always prioritize running back because it's the position that's so hard to get in quality and maintain, right? Because the life expectancy is not as long as a receiver. That's why there's so many wide receiver heavy teams. So when you can nab a really good running back, I think that's a separator, and like this feels like a draft. And Mike, I know you're kind of nodding there. This feels like a draft where there's some guys there, even that you're going to be able to get second and third round. They could have just as much of a shot at starting somewhere as somebody that you spent a first round pick on.
100%. So I worked on the Football Guys rookie guide. You guys should all go check it out. Version 2 dropped Thursday. It's completely free. Looking at my list 1 through 5, I have them all rated. They can be the lead back in an offense, really drive the ship there. 6 all the way to 19. These are strong complementary pieces. They can be the 1A or the 1B in an offense. These are guys that should be relevant for our fantasy teams if an injury happens. You're talking about guys like, all the way down at the bottom, Kyle Monunga at RB19, RJ Harvey, Bashal Tootin, who turned heads of the combine, Damian Martinez. Like, your third round picks this year, take the running back, and just enjoy the profits.
Yeah, when in doubt, just take a running back this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
It feels like that. It feels like you can win. Like in the fourth, it's like when James Robinson went undrafted. Now, you didn't get years of production, but you got a year of production at least. But like there's guys like that where you could see. Let me ask you this: running backs on the way out. So like I think we talked about in the show, we're at kind of the changing of the guard with the running back position. And, there's a lot of guys that are phasing out. And obviously this class is huge. We got a lot of running backs coming in, even like the 2 Ohio State guys, absolutely stellar. Like there's just so much coming in. Nick Chubb, what's the price that you would pay for Nick Chubb?
That is my wife's favorite player. I got to make sure that she's not in earshot.
So I got offered Nick Chubb for the 3.9.
And Chubb's a free agent unsigned as it stands today.
Do you think he stays that way?
Does he stay unsigned? No. But if you look at the number of teams that need a running back right now, it's pretty slim pickings. And if they are in a prime position to get an elite, young, not hurt talent.
Well, Cleveland hasn't put off the table of signing him back. They're allowing him to check out his options. I think they would like to keep him. And would you agree, Johnny?
I think that's definitely a possibility. There's also some other teams I think that could be in the mix. Like, obviously, we know there's a lot of teams that need running back. I think Cincinnati, ironically enough, to me, I think is a really unique place because you have Chase Brown, right? But you also are going to need somebody who's going to be able to move the chains for you a little bit. And maybe he stays healthy. I think New Orleans is another place as well that is like a place that, players go to die. So like that could be be another.
Except for Kamara. Kamara.
For sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think like those are definitely like a couple of teams, man, that like I think about it. And even like just to get really, really dirty, I think you could even talk about the New York Giants like as well. Like that could be a place where like he could be used as a potential change of pace with Tyrone Tracy. And the Giants weren't terrible running the football last year statistically. Like they were a bad football team. So I think there's a couple of places, but it's not anything that excites me or makes my teeth white.
Yeah. So no go on the 3-9 for Nick Chubb. If I've got to win, I don't know. It's so high. The potential's so high. Like it's almost like you just like somebody's like, oh, 3-9, like this. It's so late in the draft, especially like your 12 team league or something like that. You're like, man, it's like, it's like Zeke for the last couple of years. You're like, do I want to take a 4th rounder on Zeke? Maybe, and Nick Chubb, like when he came back at the end of I don't think he's done. I think he's 29 or whatever, but I don't think he's done. I don't know. It's a debating thing, but we're going to get over here to Brent Bradford's question while I just mumble over, what I think Nick Chubb should do. So this 2 Steelers fans, we got 2 big Steelers fans in the house. All right, John, did you say you're a Steelers fan also?
Man, yeah.
You see the terrible collar.
You see it back there. I keep it back there just for that. Yeah, man.
So we got the question, and I'm interested. I have a absolute ton of Pickens shares. No DK shares, ton of Pickens shares. So Brent says, does Pickens benefit from DK in Pittsburgh? What do you think?
I'll go ahead and start. I think he benefits. I think it just depends on number one, obviously, is it going to be Mace? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? They're not going to throw the ball like enough for sure. But I think like it's a possibility that it's not a volume thing, but it could be a yardage thing. I think teams obviously have to play them different with having those 2 guys on the field. I think George Pickens has shown he can be one-on-one coverage like all day long if he's in the right headspace. So long story short, I think it's a benefit for Pickens to have DK Metcalf there, just like I think it's going to benefit DK Metcalf having George Pickens on the other side.
So I've gotten a little bit of mixed on this, because I've talked to a few different people about it. And, in my opinion, I feel like, Pickens with DK, like Pickens performed last year, like in double coverage, in triple coverage, like, the guy he's catching the ball when he shouldn't catch the ball, So with having DK there, I figure I'm like, okay, he's got to Pickens against cornerback 2s, right? Like I'm like, he should absolutely smoke. But then, and I'm gonna lean this to Mike. The big thing that seems to be the debacle is like, yes, the weapons are there, yes, the space is there, but ultimately Arthur Smith is running the offense, and they kill it off.
Listen, who is the best quarterback that Arthur Smith has ever had lead his offense? Ryan
Tannehill.
Danny.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is Mason Rudolph better or worse than that?
Yeah.
Can I say that as a guy that currently has a Mason Rudolph jersey on?
I'll take him under.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Mike? Does Smith really play a role? Like, can we see, another big season from Pickens, maybe even a higher production level?
Not in 2025. With one caveat, if Aaron Rodgers goes there, I just looked it up. This would be the highest volume passing offense since 2021, and that's by a lot. And that was with 40-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. So if it turns into 2021, there is a chance that he could finish, wide receiver 2 range, but increased target competition, change of role, unhappy when he doesn't get the ball, higher probability of a crash out. There's a lot of ways that this can go very wrong. And I say this is a strong Pickens supporter. I will probably not be drafting him unless I get the Rodgers news. Then I might throw some darts in best ball.
So this probably isn't going to happen. But let's say Rodgers doesn't because he goes to the Vikings for some reason. And,
the Vikings? No, it's either Steelers or Giants. There's no way.
I'm
the Vikings don't want
over here.
No.
I'm stirring the pot over here. But let's say it's not. If the Steelers bring number 3 back,
they aren't going to. No. Listen, I can't talk too much about this, but I know with good faith, Russell Wilson is not in the plans for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Can't be.
On the sources that I have, Russell Wilson is not even in consideration. It's like they made a lowball offer because you were the starter last year, and but we really don't want you back, bro. We'll keep Sierra, but we don't need you.
I just wanted to strike a nerve for Joe. I knew he would be the first to speak up on that one.
Fair.
Albert, what's up, fellas? Thanks for tuning in. Albert, drop your questions in if you have any. Okay, so we're going to shift that, and let's talk about losers, like players that you think went to a situation and you're like, this just killed their value. Who's that for you, this Joe?
Man, I think the biggest one for me, I would have to say maybe DK, honestly. It's going to be a really interesting situation in Pittsburgh. I don't think that he had a great situation, mostly because of the offensive line in Seattle. I think Geno Smith was a steal as a 3rd-round pick, right? If I was the Steelers GM, Geno's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. He wanted $45 million, which sounds horrendous. But then you look around the league at who wants $45 million or who has $45 million, and you're like, you know what? I'd probably take.
You can't base that on the Giants' blunders.
No, I'm not even basing it off the Giants' blunders. But the way that the salary cap is increasing, you can't look at it as just the raw number. You need to look at it as a percentage of the cap. So I think for me, it's like DK, he's 27 years old. He secured the bag, which is great. But from a fantasy perspective, Pittsburgh is going to do whatever they can to make sure that they have this 10-7 season locked in next year. Right? And so if Mason Rudolph is the starter, even if Aaron Rodgers is the starter, whoever it is, they are going to minimize the risk so that they can win football games, which isn't how everybody does things, right? So I think that for DK, if you're expecting, hey, he's got this wide receiver 1 money, he's the big guy in Pittsburgh, what's going to happen? I think that he could potentially get overdrafted, and that's just going to not bode well for him.
What about you, Mike? Biggest loser?
It's not a player that signed, but it's a player that had a couple of things happen around him in Seattle. Jackson Smith and Jigba, so they just signed 31-year-old Cooper Kupp, who plays a very redundant role. He's going from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. People are expecting Sam Darnold to be the same player that he was in Minnesota. Look, it's a way worse offensive line. We've seen Sam Darnold's numbers with a good protection, with bad protection. It's always terrible with bad protection. He just can't make the same magic happen. So I think people expecting JSN took the step forward in 2024. I think he takes another step back in 2025, which is unfortunate because I've drafted him on a ton of best ball teams.
Yeah, because I think Seattle was, 3rd in sacks allowed last year? They were in the 50s or 60s. So
and that was with Geno playing out of his mind. Like, what's that going to look like with Sam or either of the Sams?
Yeah, for sure. All right, Johnny.
It's for me, it's not a team or a player, man. It's a division. It's the AFC South. It's gross. Nothing happened.
That's
Nothing
that was
happened.
like 10 years.
Daniel Jones?
like
Naomi
nothing, like nothing happened. Like the Jags are like self-imploding. The Texans, I don't know what they're doing. Like they're trading away their best linemen. I think, obviously they're trying to line up to maybe pay some defensive players, but I just think like that was the entire division. I think, like I said, like it was a mess for me and nothing happened to change that. So yeah, like I'll take that one for sure.
Number one Naomi Brown hater.
For me, it was, and it kind of leans into what Mike was saying. It's the Sam Darnold signing. Like Sam Darnold went, you look at his career, it's like bad, mediocre, bad, mediocre, and then he goes to a really good system, right? Like he goes to a really good system and the Vikings are able to give him a name again, which they've done with a ton of quarterbacks, right? Like it's just, they have a decent O-line. They have excellent weapons. Like everything is fit for a quarterback to succeed, right? Like it was the first time Darnold probably wasn't running for his life all freaking season. You put him in Carolina, or just like you put Baker in Carolina and everybody's dying. And I feel like this is another one of those situations where he's going to Seattle, who, like you said, Mike, doesn't have a great O-line. They're not dividing out their weapons well. I guess they're going to try to move Jackson Smith and Jigba to the outside, which is interesting because he's not a speed guy and he's not a gigantic guy like a DK, somebody that can go over the top on somebody. Yep. It's going to be really interesting. But, like for Darnold, it definitely doesn't make me excited for him or for Seattle. And I honestly – I wonder if it was just another, like Seattle's like, oh, we're just going to do something that makes it seem like we're trying because really we want to have a top pick going into next season and we want to draft our quarterback because it's a better quarterback draft next year than it is this year. And I think we had that in a lot of teams, and you see that, out of the quarterbacks this year, it's the first time, especially in Superflex, that there's not an automatic 101 quarterback that you got to grab, right? Like I'm in a 16-team Superflex league, right? There's only 32 quarterbacks. So you can get two, but there's, and even then the 1-1, which is usually the worst player that only has one quarterback on their entire roster, is not going quarterback at number 1, nor the guy at number 2. So it's like, they're not excited about that. And so the Darnold signing to me was very mundane. It was, I didn't know why he got paid. There was a ton of other people that I would have rather seen there, and it makes me feel bad because I also have a lot of JSN shares. He's just he's a good player. He's a good route runner. He's got good hands. He plays I like JSN a lot.
It is interesting though, because like if you look at the quarterback contract that Darnold got in a nutshell, it's basically the same contract that Baker Mayfield got when he went to the Buccaneers.
Yep.
But it's like if you wanted to pay Sam that, you already know what you have in Geno Smith, which would have been around the same. So like, do you think that you're elevating here? Like it's not like they traded Geno Smith and got something back and it's like, oh, then we're signing this. It's just like, it was just strange to me. Like I would have just rather paid Geno Smith like the 40-45 and just called it a day.
They better hit on that second and third.
Yeah. I think it was a shift in the room, right? Like they let DK go. They let Lockett go. Like they let the identity that was the Seattle receiving core for so long go. Yeah. And Geno was kind of in that mix. And so I think it was like them kind of just saying, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to start over, because even if you look at Bob Lung's consistency guide, I'm going to give him a shout out. If you haven't got your tickets for the expo yet, you should. But, like Tyler Lockett's one of those players. He's hardly misses time. He's pretty consistent. And like, they're just departing all these players, and I think that's really what it was, honestly. Not that Geno wasn't bad. I just think they were ready to shift. And when you get rid of a guy's top 2 targets, outside of, I'd say maybe not top 2 because Jackson definitely took some game share there.
He was number 1 last year, yeah, but historically it was the DK and Tyler Lockett show for sure.
Yeah. So that's probably, to me, that's probably a big part of it. But yeah, we'll keep it moving. As you guys know, let's give Millie shout out. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. What's up? This show is brought to you by the Fantasy Football Advice Network, the social media platform for fantasy sports. And during this show, we always take a minute to hop over to the Advice Network and answer a few questions. And I got a couple doozies lined up for tonight. So we're going to do that now before we kick in to some more of the free agency and rookie talk.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
So, starting off with a question here from Coach Retzlav 1. In Dynasty, who do you prefer? Puka Nacua, and he gives us some context. Puka has Matthew Stafford, the addition to Devontae Adams, 105 receptions as a rookie. We know the story of Puka. Wide receiver in fantasy points per game 23, wide receiver 2, fantasy points per game 2024. Or do we want Malik Neighbors? Quarterback situation uncertain, wide receiver 6 in 2024 as a rookie, first in target share, third in receptions. So you got to get the idea of the vacuum. If you have to choose, we can just go top to bottom, starting with you, Johnny. Malik or Nacua? Who do you want?
I'm going to roll with Puka, man. I love Malik Neighbors. I think he is absolutely insane, but I think it's just one of those trust factors. Like, what you're getting offensively with the Rams. Like there's, you mentioned the Minnesota Vikings a little bit earlier and what they've been able to do, Kevin O'Connell, like with quarterbacks and things. And I think the Rams are in a very similar situation. Like they're always going to put a really solid product out there on the field. So give me Puka Nacua in this situation just from a stability side of things. That's my play, man.
All right, Joe.
Man, now we're just going to have to break it down the mic for the finale because I got to go with my guy, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors was somebody that I was heavily invested on going into the rookie season for him. I took him in the 5th round of Scott Fishbowl, and I was like, well, what are you doing? I was like, just wait.
Just wait.
It's going to be awesome. I don't need to take Marvin Harrison Jr. because I got Malik coming to me. And I think that, yes, Puka so far has been great. The reason why I'm picking Malik Neighbors is really just the injuries that Puka's accumulated so far. That scares me a lot. If I'm thinking, especially in Dynasty, where I'm like, who is going to be that long-term play? Even if you look at like last year, if you look at his time at LSU, it was like Malik, it's like hey, he might not practice all week, but he'll be out there. Puka, we've had some like longer term injuries. You're really splitting hairs. Puka's great. Malik is great. I love the number change to number 12, but give me the guy that's been less injury prone. And so I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors, but it's like, if you're choosing between the two, it's a great problem to have.
Absolutely.
All right, Mike.
Yeah.
Be the tiebreaker.
I guess I'll close this out. It's Malik Neighbors with a bullet. So Puka Nacua, 2 years older, has a PCL sprain, an AC sprain, a thigh pull, a pedal ankle pull, a pedal foot fracture. This is just since he's been in college. We don't know what he's sustained since then. I love both of them. I think you may feel silly picking Malik Neighbors now, but you're not going to feel silly picking Malik Neighbors 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep going down the road, because that concern where you don't know who the quarterback's going to be, that's going to start popping up with Puka Nacua. And is he actually that good, or is he just a Matt Stafford merchant?
Matt Stafford does have those merchants. If you've watched Matt Stafford play, one thing you know about Stafford is he will hyper target whoever he likes at the time, whoever he's gelling with, whoever he's feeling. He's going to hyper target, which is great because then okay, production is going to be there, right? Like it's going to be there. And so that's a really good take. And I'll say this in Dynasty, the key is in Dynasty. Like in Dynasty, not that I don't like Puka, but I don't think it's long before Malik has a quarterback, right? Like he will have a quarterback. Like the Giants flop again, right? They're going to get a high-end quarterback in the next draft, or they may even get somebody this year. Who knows? Like it's not out of the realm. I think there is a potential for them to grab one this year. Although there's only two that I'm actually really like interested in for me personally. But I'll leave those names out just for another show.
You got people in your league that are watching this, don't you?
He's picking 105 in a Superflex league, and he's like, "Don't say the names."
Maybe. No, okay. So we're gonna hop over to this next question real quick, which is the next one. It's a trade here, and Dad bought 35 coming in, and the trade is Mike Evans and George Kittle for Sam Laporta and the 25 round 3 pick 2. What's the thoughts?
I think the hardest thing about trades like this is not being able to see like the construction of the team. In a nutshell,
obviously it's probably a win now move. It looks
sure.
Like if I'm getting Evans and Kittle, like I need to win in the next 2 years or I'm out, right? Like
I hear you, but I hate doing win now moves in the off season because everybody feels good about their team right now. And then you get into the thick of it and it's like, all right, like maybe everybody gets hurt on my team. I had a team last year that I was 5th in the league in points, and I was the bottom of the league. And it was just because I lost McCaffrey, I lost these other pieces. And like, if you went into the season, it was like, hey, do you want to make these trades? I was like, yeah, why not? Like, this is going to make my team awesome. I feel like if you're going to do something like this, don't do it now. Do it when you've already got a playoff spot more or less clinched. And it's like, hey, I need that extra little push to get me over the edge. Like, who knows what's going to happen with Evan next year? Like, yeah, he's had 1,000-yard season every year that he's been alive, but like, what benefit do I have right now?
Will it be this year?
Like, well, why would you take the risk of holding the bag for 2 older players when you should, in theory, be able to make this trade later? So for me, I would not take this deal. If I'm on the other side, yeah, get rid of all your old players for the new hot guys every time.
So what do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna ride with Frick on this one, man. Like, I think obviously you have Laporta. Obviously, he was a little bit younger. We just got done talking about all the value that would and should be there in round 3 of these drafts. You got 2 guys that are older. You guys are just kind of talking about like the injury piece, and there's 2 guys that injuries have popped up for him. And I think Kittle is obviously, I don't want to say you never know what you're getting, but he could be tight end 1 or it could be injury ridden. Mike Evans is what he is. So yeah, I'm probably going to stay on the youth side of this one. And if I'm getting the youth, yes. If not, then no, I'm not messing with it.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, dissenting opinion here. We're all talking about the 700-yard tight end here, right? Sam Laporta, who lost his job to Jameson Williams. Look, if you believe in the value insulation that Laporta has and you're looking at a rebuild, I get that. But Sam Laporta is not a difference-making tight end. George Kittle still is as long as he's healthy. Mike Evans is still a difference-making wide receiver as long as he's healthy. If you're a win-now team, I understand waiting a little bit to make sure that you're good. But if you wait a little bit, Sam Laporta has a couple of crap weeks. How much longer is he going to be the tight end 3 in Dynasty? Probably not that long.
It is crazy, though, that you say that, and people like Tyler Warren who haven't been drafted are top 5 Dynasty tight ends right now.
And wait until they have 2 better weeks than Laporta.
Yeah, it's like insane to me. Like going into 2024, it was like tight end is back, baby. Remember that time that we were talking about like eliminating the tight end position for fantasy football? Like everybody's going to have a good tight end, and then they all sucked.
It's just Brock Bowers and everyone else.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I I very felt the same about like the win now situation. Like obviously Brock Purdy is gonna freaking bullet, George Kittle, especially with Debo moving on. Like obviously he found Ricky Pearsall late in the season, but with Debo moving on, Kittle eats in that offense, and there's comfortability there. Mike Evans, like if you want a 1,000-yard receiver, it's pretty much guaranteed. Obviously they'll have a new OC this season. It's a different, be a little bit different offense, but you still have that connection between Baker and Evans that has been fine, right? The thing that challenges me on this though is when I looked at the little corner of the thing and it says 8-team Dynasty Superflex. And I'm like, how desperate can the rosters be in an 8-team league that like a Kittle or an Evans really makes all the difference?
Yeah,
like
that changes everything, because in an 8-team league, like you're really looking for. I'm trying to think of
everybody has studs in an 8-team
word
league.
that I want to say. You are looking for studs in this sort of situation where it's like having the tight end 5, like you have a bottom 5 tight, or you have a bottom half tight end now. So it's like, how do you stack up your lineup? Like to me, like you're just trading because you're bored at this point.
Yeah, like there's so many possibilities when you have 8 teams. Like you look at like the top 20. I mean, like everybody's gonna have somebody, it's just, and so for me, when I'm looking at it that way and I'm thinking dynasty, it's really hard to like not like Laporta started off early. Typically in fantasy, we see it. Tight ends take 3-4 years before they really start popping and developing, right? And then you start really seeing what they're capable of. It's rare that you get the Brock Bowers that is like, killer year one, or Laporta on his rookie season. Like that's not the norm, right? And so if he's already that good, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have 8 more years of this guy, or 2 more years of Kittle, or whatever it is. It shifts me a little bit because there has, like, with the plethora of, or the plethora of talent and the minimal amount of teams, there's got to be people there that I can plug and play and not have to give my young guns. But if I am a team and I need it, I don't hate the trade. It's definitely, and honestly, it's not even Evans that wins it for me. Like in a win now situation, it's George Kittle, because George Kittle gets hyper targeted by Purdy when he's on the field.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an interesting trade. It's one of the better ones that got posted on the network. So hopefully that helps you, Dad Bod. I'll link in the show later with the timestamp for when we hit your question. So we've got a few free agents left on the docket, and I'm going to start with somebody that I've liked since they entered the league, and you guys are probably going to laugh.
Probably
so, because it has not been a good run, but I have been a big fan and have rostered for a long time J.K. Dobbins. And part of it has been because, like with Dobbins, it's like when he gets hurt, it's like the price is too cheap to send him on, right? Like you can't get enough for him for what you're going to get if he's on the field. You look at year one, he averaged over 6 yards per carry. Came back from injury, averaged over 5 yards per carry. Then he like another injury, another freaking blown out knee. He comes back from multiple injuries, right? Like typically a running back is done. He goes to a completely new offense, with the Chargers, and then goes and averages over 4.5 yards per carry again. He finishes as running back 24, missing 5 games. So he played 5 games less than everybody else, and he finishes running back 24 in fantasy. And I'm like, he's this like the ultimate conundrum, right? Like, so, you wonder where he goes. I mean, it was the same thing last year. Last year going into the year, when he goes to the Chargers, you couldn't get anything for him. You're trying to sell JK, and everybody's like, oh, I might give you a fourth, or no, I'm not interested. And then he goes to average like 18 points a game before he gets hurt. And even when he comes back from the injury, he still kills it. And it's like, we know what he is. And it seems like no matter what injuries come, he's going to be able to come back and do it again. And so, like, he's been an intriguing player for me in fantasy. But as far as free agency goes, where do you think he could go? And what kind of role or effectiveness for players that are thinking about drafting? And I know there's a guy watching right now. I've already talked to he's been grabbing a lot of shares of JK because he's rather cheap. So what do you think he has to look forward to, if anything at all?
Well, I think here's the thing that you have to think about. So if we think about like the big four running backs in this free agent class, so you had Aaron Jones signed for $10 million rather quickly. Najee Harris with incentives signed for over $9 million rather quickly. Rico Dowdle signs a smaller contract after a 1,000-yard season, and then it's the second fiddle to Chuba Hubbard, who has a $36 million extension that kicks in this year. So do you think that J.K. Dobbins is the $9 million man, or do you think that he plays second fiddle similar to Rico Dowdle?
J.K. Dobbins is way better than Rico Dowdle.
Sure. I don't disagree with that. But where do you think that he lands as far as teams, especially knowing that there's a lot of strength in this running back class, right? So I think that there is some inherent risk. Are there some good fits for him? Sure. You look at teams like the Raiders, who don't really have a set running back outside of like Sincere McCormick and like the Hall of Mid that they are currently housing for the Raiders, right? So there are places like that he could slide in and be a starting running back. Do I think that he's going to get more than a 1-year deal? Probably not.
No, but I mean, if you're in fantasy and you're like, where are you hoping that he lands, or where do you think he possibly lands where he has relevance, or are you completely out?
I think for me, it's like if he doesn't end up on, say, the Raiders, that's really the one team that I can think of off the top of my head that I'm like, yes, like good, done. You'll at least start the year as that guy and we'll see what happens. But other than that, I mean, he's going to be second fiddle to somebody else. I mean, there's even been rumblings of him going to, say, like Pittsburgh to be like the offset for Jaylen Warren. And it's like, all right, I think Jaylen Warren still gets the first crack, but you could be in a good situation. Losing that Chargers room where he was the guy, that was the ideal scenario.
He earned the guy.
Had it, and it's gone.
He earned the guy, though. Like, he didn't start out as the guy. He came in and he quieted the Gus Edwards lovers. Yeah. And, everybody preaching. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead, Mike.
He beat 90-year-old Gus Edwards and the psyop from Big's Fantasy, Kamani Vidal. I like the Raiders call out. I think that's the only place left where you can say if he goes there and they don't draft anybody, now he has the lead role. A couple of other places that could be fun, complementary pieces. We're talking about the Cleveland Browns, talking about the Saints to be kind of like the breather for Kamara if they don't believe in Kendre Miller yet.
Like Ingram role pretty much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or Cincinnati Bengals, because Chase Brown needs a seeing eye dog to find the hole. Let Chase Brown be your explosive guy. Let Dobbins keep your offense on schedule. It would stink for fantasy, but those are a couple of places that I think he could have relevance.
I
have all of the same teams.
Good talk.
Again, I have all of the same teams. I think again, like another team just to throw out there as well as the Giants. I think that could be another place just to add a little bit of spice to this.
What about the Pats?
We were getting the agenda for running backs, like obviously, and being up here, like I thought about that because there's not really anything there for Mondre, and I think obviously it's a change now for them offensively, and they still lack weapons as far as like receivers. Might not be a bad situation for them. They're trying to looks like they're trying to build that thing the right way there, man, on the defensive side of the ball. And I would imagine like that Vrabel's probably going to be going inside out and taking young players on the offensive side. So that I like that place for him as well.
So, as we start moving through the rest of the, free agents, Nick Chubb, and we won't stay on him very long. We kind of talked about him earlier. I think that really the best place for him to land is right back where he was. He started with the Browns. He needs to end with the Browns, and that needs to be.
For the sake of my marriage, I agree with you, Tyler.
Oh shit.
But we already know where Cooper Kupp landed today, which was an absolute crazy. I can't believe they paid him that much money. Amari Cooper probably had the worst end of his he goes to a high powered offense in the Bills. Everybody's excited, Josh Allen is making the meek relevant, if he lands there, the hopes were high. Obviously, we all got completely just bummed out with how that ended. Is Amari Cooper done, or is there an offense that he can actually bring back? Go ahead and hit us, Mike. I see you're ready.
Yeah, listen, he might be done, but let's say he signs with the Denver Broncos. They don't have someone aside Cortland Sutton. Let's say he signs with the Chargers to go be the outside guy there. I know they brought Mike Williams in. They know what Mike Williams is. You shouldn't scare them off of Amari Cooper. Can the New England Patriots, for the love of God, sign a receiver? Just
literally anyone.
Just
anyone.
Who they are.
Anyone on the show. Anyone.
I just need someone with hands that will run routes most of the time. And I think that's what Amari Cooper could bring to the Patriots. So there are a couple of places, if he goes to the right spot, he could be a fun ad for Dynasty. He could be a fun late round dart. But his days of you're drafting him top 20, you're getting top 20 production are probably behind us.
I like that. Another place that's fun that I think that, there's a little bit of history is maybe New Orleans, on a cheaper tag. That's a place that could use some playmakers, and obviously, the history there with Derek Carr. I think Jacksonville could be on the radar, but the overall question was, is he washed? I'm leaning more towards the yeah than no on that.
It is funny that you say that. I saw something. I don't know how credible it was, but they were saying that he's retiring.
Jesus, that happened quick.
I mean, after last season, I don't put it out the window. Sometimes when these guys have been playing at such a high level for so long, I mean, high school, college, they get to the NFL, and then they have a season like they did last year when they're behind an elite quarterback. It's kind of it kills you a little bit. You go, Zeke goes to the Patriots, and he all of a sudden is he kills it. He does what we know that he does when he gets 70 plus targets a year, and he performs in New England, and he goes back to the place that brought him in, right? The Cowboys, and they don't feature him. They don't try to use him. And so if I'm Zeke, I'm so dead on the inside, it's hard for me to get back into the game. And that's where I feel like Amari's at, is he's at that place where he went to the Browns, and it was just an absolute blah. And then he goes to what seems to be hopeful. He goes to the Bills to play with Josh Allen, and it's just blah again. And so at this point, if I'm him, I'm in that state where I'm kind of is this even for me anymore? There's a reality that we see it. If Cooper Kupp plays in Seattle this year and doesn't have a good season, if he is an afterthought when it comes to throwing the football, he'll be in that same boat. He'll be like, why did I even do this?
Because he's about to get $45 million.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got 30 more million reasons.
Cooper Kupp separation is like that Drewski construction video where he pretends to be a wide receiver now.
Cooper Kupp's going to try to separate. He's going to twist his ankle. He's going to collect this $15 million sitting on the bench with an injury tag. Let's be real.
Dreams. Sign me up. I'll do it for $5.
I'll do it for free. I just want to
for the love of the game.
So let's go to our one of our last big free agents that's still out there. Obviously, huge personality. Thinks he is still the center of the universe. Stefon Diggs. Okay.
Absolutely not.
That would make sense. That would
absolutely not.
Run it. Throw a ball. Throw a ball out there.
I'm choking. Such an awful thought in my head. And the Steelers fans in this room are probably even worse reaction than I am.
Brother.
Even anytime Mike says brother, it's there.
Oh, brother.
Oh,
No,
man.
but in reality, you want to know where he could go and be the center of attention? The Carolina Panthers.
I thought you were going to say the Patriots.
No, they could go to the Patriots.
Yeah.
The Panthers, listen, he has a couple of seasons where he's had over a 50% slot rate. They need a receiver, again, with hands, like just someone that can actually catch the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe the Bryce Young ascension reels him in. Maybe he just wants to go get a bunch of money in a state with a low income tax. There's a couple of ways where he wants to go to Carolina, and I don't knock him for any of those. I don't think he's going somewhere to be a difference maker. He's either taking a small deal to ring chase or he's taking a big deal to be a diva. And I think the big deal to be a diva is Carolina.
Look,
Adam
any guy,
Thielen erasure is crazy.
Any guy that pulls out the income tax
I'm prepared
for a player, like you're on it, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
my God.
Okay.
No, that's a great take. What about you, Johnny? Where do you think Diggs plays? And even if he goes to wherever you're thinking in your head, are we getting relevance?
I think you would get something from him. My place for him would obviously be Dallas, and I know that's like a pretty commercial take.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like there's just a lot that just says that. Obviously, his brother being there, an opportunity to play in an offense that maybe they still continue to throw the ball. They still don't really have. They have a lot more questions than answers at running back. Defenses don't know where they're really at, losing some older pieces. So, I mean, that's the play for me, is I like that one. I think the Carolina one was definitely a good call. I did have those guys written down as well. And then, like, I don't know. I just feel like Jacksonville has to do something, and like not to go backwards, but like the Cooper Kupp deal, it seems like these players that like they get burned and are a little bit later on or longer in the tooth. It's like they always go back inside division just to show that like they still got something, like no matter how bad it is, man. So just a couple of takes from me, man. Yeah.
It is surprising on the Jacksonville front that you mentioned that they got rid of Christian Kirk. They got rid of Evan Ingram. Like, are they just locked in on a mediocre receiving class?
Right.
Like, what are they planning on doing with Trevor Lawrence now that he is in beyond the rookie contract?
Yeah.
And it's shocking to me that they bring in somebody who did so many good things for Baker Mayfield. That's like, all right, like, let's look at our offensive weapons in Jacksonville. And it's like, we've got Brian Thomas Jr., fantastic. And it's like Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Diami Brown, let's go, boys.
Oh, we're back. We're back. We're back.
Hey, no state income tax in Florida, just so you know.
Oh God. I tell you this, I like the Dallas call. I think that he could do well there. Brandon Cooks was relevant there. Like, Dallas has a knack to take, like, outside of CeeDee Lamb, like, take less than and make them something, right? We've seen it with so many players that end up getting contracts afterwards. Noah Brown, like these guys, and like it. I like that take. I don't mind Carolina. That's also a good take. I think Diggs is probably going to search for a place of relevance where he thinks he can have an impact. I like both of those. He's such a freaking conundrum. It's like, because he can produce, but he's also coming off, an injury, which he hasn't had one in a while. So it is a big question mark. So it'll be interesting to see where Diggs goes. I personally am hoping that we get a story like Dallas. Like, if Diggs goes to Dallas, I am selling him in every single dynasty league that I may still have him in. I am selling him and trying to get minimal value. Like, whatever I can get is where I'm at. Like, because I think he is on the outs. Jacksonville's interesting. I still think Jacksonville lacks in the slot. Like, they're putting a lot of hope in Brian Thomas Jr. And if you have a shot, if you own Brian Thomas Jr., great. But I get a little worried. Like, Brian Thomas Jr.'s best performance, I feel like, was behind Mac Jones. And it's because, Lawrence, when he gets the deep ball or when he gets excited, he has this tendency to overthrow. It's like when you get too excited and you shoot a basketball and then you hit the backboard every time. It's like that's him. He's overshooting.
Wait, that only happens when you get excited. That's like all the time for me.
Well, I'm not no comment.
Ball up top.
I knew it was going there.
Like, you got to call it like backboard. But it's I don't know. I'm a little worried about the Brian Thomas Jr. hype because of that. But they definitely need somebody in the slot. Losing Ingram, who essentially was their slot guy, Ingram took the role of the slot wide receiver. I'm really interested to see how that works out in Jacksonville. So that was also a good call. Man, this show has been absolute fire. You guys have been bringing the heat, and I wanted to just kind of end the show right here with a couple. Like if anybody in the chat wants to drop a couple trade questions, I know that I got texted one from somebody that was curious, and they did a trade in the league, and they traded away Ladd McConkey.
Oh wow!
And they acquired Jerry Jeudy and J.K. Dobbins. And at first, here's the thing. At first, I was very much so the same reaction. However, if you roll the tape, and hear me out here, if you roll the tape, Jerry Jeudy finished higher than Ladd McConkey last year in fantasy points.
He did.
And it was Jerry Jeudy's first year not in a Denver Broncos offense. So the first year out of his initial offense, he finishes wide receiver 12 in fantasy. He has 1,300 yards receiving, and he's still, what is he, like 25 now?
He's not that old. He's
still young.
25. He'll
Yeah.
turn 26 in a couple days.
So he's not old, right? So it's like one of those late blooming wide receivers. Like, are we starting to see what we expected from Jeudy? And that's really the crux, I think, of the conversation. Ladd finished wide receiver 13 in his rookie season. So I think that Ladd rises above Jeudy slightly. The question is, J.K. Dobbins still yet to average less than 4 yards per carry in his career. Is he enough to tilt the wheel?
No,
absolutely not. All right, so diving into the numbers a little bit more. Jeudy did finish ahead of Ladd in 2024, but Ladd finished ahead in points per game. He did miss a game as the Chargers were going through some stuff. Jeudy's big games came with ball it out Jameis Winston.
Yes, sir.
On a Cleveland Browns team that stunk. Is Jerry Jeudy going to play with ball at Jameis Winston, or is he going to play with Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, rookie quarterback? There's a lot of ways that Jeudy loses value versus as the leader of dads for Ladd McConkey can continue to gain value. And J.K. Dobbins could turn into nothing, or he could turn into a medium RB2 for another year. I think this was short-sighted, but they should listen to the show more so they can get better insight.
My guy.
Man.
Oh, I love it. No, it was interesting. And I think it really rides, like you said, I think it rides a little bit on where Dobbins gets signed. Like if Dobbins gets signed to somewhere where he's a starter, I think in the immediate, you probably did okay. Like it's an okay trade. I think the jury's still out on Jeudy. Like I don't think we really know. And it's because we had so many years of Jeudy in a Denver offense that didn't love him, like that his views are so tainted. And here's the reality. You can probably go out and get Jeudy for kind of cheap. Like if you wanted to, like most people aren't thinking of him as wide receiver 12.
They probably think of it as like a fluke.
Right. That's the viewpoint. Like, and so if they're viewing it that way, and let's say you can get Jeudy for 3-1,
Oh, smash.
2.9.
Yeah.
Smash.
You know,
Smash.
smash. You know, so what's the, if you could get Judy, what's the earliest pick you're willing to trade for him?
I would be willing to send
A 2-4.
Let me pull up our consensus big board of football guys. Check it out, 100% free.
Love it.
I think 2-4 is a little steep, but there's somewhere in that 4 to 7 range.
Okay.
I'd feel okay about it. I'm just addicted to rookies.
I also hate Dynasty, so like don't listen to my advice. I hate Dynasty mostly because it's like I want to draft on trends, and it's just like, all right, my team's pretty much is what it is. I don't feel like talking to people, so my team's probably just going to be whatever it already was. So the 204, you're probably right, was a little steep, but I would consider it. I'm a big booty Judy supporter, so
The crazy thing is, if he finishes top 10, or let's say he finishes top 15 again, even like, let's say we don't know who's going to throw the ball. I secretly hope that the Browns take Cam Ward. I think that's like, it's their best shot. Like, if they're going to spend the 2 value, you know, we'll see. I think that out of Ward and Shadur, like, Ward has the better arm and the better playmaking ability when there's nothing there. Kind of like that Mahomes, like, let me throw it sidearm in a crooked body position to try to make a play happen. Like, Cam Ward kind of has that about his game. And so that would give me hope. If Aaron Rodgers signed with them, I wouldn't have that much hope. I don't know.
He ain't signing with them.
No, not with Cleveland. No,
I know. Everybody's like, Cleveland, let me get out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So anybody else, if you want to, you can drop a trade question in the chat. I got one more that came over on Instagram, and that was, let me just pull it up here. It was Tucker Kraft and sorry, let me pull it up here. Tucker Kraft and a 4th round pick for a 2nd round. So it was pick 211, 25. So it's a 16 team Superflex tight end premium. And it was Tucker Kraft and the last pick in the draft, pick 416, for a round 2, pick 11.
So the 27th pick?
Yes.
What tight end are you getting there that's better than Tucker Kraft?
I don't know. Well, I mean, traditionally, I'll say this. In Dynasty, traditionally tight ends fall. You look at Laporta. Laporta went in most drafts 3rd round. Right? He went after everybody else. He went in the 3rd round. Tight ends are like Theo Johnson, right? Like Theo Johnson went in like the 4th round or went undrafted. Mm-hmm. Tight ends are always the conundrum of, like, you can get for cheaper than you expected to get. Mm-hmm. So that would be the question mark to this trade. But I mean, you can finish at that pick. Who would you get? Sure, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, in a tight end premium league, we're talking about the 27th pick. Like, maybe you roll the dice on Terrence Ferguson. Maybe you roll the dice Harold Fandon falls. Like, it's the bird in the hand versus in the bush. Like, just take the one in your hand, brother. Tucker Kraft is a top 10 dynasty tight end right now. Enjoy the touchdowns. Enjoy the upside. Maybe he continues to ascend like he already has. I think it's Kraft easily, but I'm ready to be wrong.
I like the trade. I like Tucker Kraft versus the 211 in a 16. I pick 27. You're shooting for a maybe. Like, once you get to that deep, you're shooting for a maybe. Tight end, wide receiver, whatever you running back, whatever you pick, it's a maybe, right? in Dynasty, there's so many people that get hyped up around the draft. And I always tell people, don't trade your picks till like draft week, if not draft night, because Joe, you're muted. They gain so much value. I know he's so confused, but and so if I can get a top 10 Dynasty tight end for essentially pick 27 in the draft, I'm in.
Yep.
Run it.
Joe, can you hear me?
We can't hear him, but he's saying that it's a really good idea and he really supports the trade and that Mason Rudolph is going to do really well this year.
He's still muted. We're getting no sound. You may need to exit and come back in, which is okay. But that's amazing. Look, I will say this. I appreciate you guys for coming into and being on the show. If you would just let the audience, before we kind of tune out here, let the audience know where they can find you, where they can find your content. Guys, if you've tuned in Fantasy Sports Advice Network, make sure you check out these guys. They're doing great stuff in the fantasy sports industry. And, if you're wanting the inside knowledge, like these are great people to tap into because you'll see them. They're on Twitter. They're everywhere. Mike, I see your stuff all the time. You're doing great stuff, man. So, Johnny, same thing, man. I think I met you at the Expo last year and just killing it, being in the game. And so obviously great resources, but let the audience know where they can find you, where they can find your content.
Other than finding me in the trap 24/7. No, right on X, man. At Johnny Main 37185. Like I said, also too, man, my boy, shout out Nick Wilcox, co-host of the Fantasy Football Show, Nick_Wilcox 25 on X. You can also check us out on YouTube as well. Same handle for myself. Also the Fantasy Football page on YouTube as well. Looking for some rebranding. Got some more things coming, man. Some more guests. Might even see some of these smiling faces here on this screen on our show. Be on the lookout 100%, man. That's what we about, baby.
Yeah, look, I'll make it short and sweet. Head over to X, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever your preferred social media is. Find me at FF Mike Cash. That's with a K. I'll send all sorts of links. My DMs are open if you have trade questions, comments, concerns, draft targets, funny memes. I'd love to see all of them.
I just want to know if you can hear me yet.
Yeah, you sound great.
No.
Oh, man.
No, we're supposed to say no.
The voice of an angel.
Wow, lucky me. What a time. No, but yeah, this is a great show. Thank you guys for being on. It's been a lot of fun. So thank y'all for the insight as always. And it's fun learning ball from people that know what they're talking about. So I appreciate y'all greatly.
Joe, I feel like you always take that route. You're like, I'm the guy that's just here. Like these guys are all experts and I'm just here. But you got stuff to bring too. Like
I put out like 6 articles this week. I've got carpal tunnel from like right.
I know, dude. You've been killing it.
I know. Yeah. We didn't know that we had it in me, but you know what? Here we are.
Hey, look, I'm proud.
It's usually just my mom that's reading my stuff, but now we got other people looking at it, so it's nice.
It's food.
Mom's always the editor, though. Don't worry.
She gets those typos quick.
I love it. Well, you guys know where to find me at Tyler Bradley CP on Twitter. Obviously, if you have any questions, go over to fantasysportsadvice.com. Join the social media platform. You can drop your questions there. We're happy to answer, jump on them as soon as we can. And we are here every Friday night. If you're not on a date with your significant other or your wife, you can be right here on From the Forum at 9 o'clock Central, and we are here for you. Always pumped to have great guests like Johnny and Mike. Joe, you've become a great co-host for this show, and I've enjoyed having you. But all that to say, happy free agency frenzy, and who knows what else is to come this week? Who will get paid? Who will land where? And then we start draft conversation if you haven't already. Good Lord, we'll see where that goes. But be here 9 o'clock Central on Friday from the Forum. You guys have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.
See you guys.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.